Oh boy, I thought I would not have to talk about week 4 of Overwatch League. I mean, how can you top week 3 of Overwatch League, right? Right? But you can at least come close to it. All bets are off in week 4 of Overwatch League, with Boston Uprising, one of the weakest teams in Overwatch League, rising towards the top of the ladder. Then we have the strongest team in Overwatch League, the Seoul Dynasty, who continues to lose this week, as London Spitfire spitfired them into the fires of the most insulting defeat in Overwatch League yet. And Houston Outlaws, even playing without their star DPS Linkser, made Seoul Dynasty struggle to achieve a win.
Payload's still moving a little bit, but I think that's where it's going to stop, Monty.
Yeah, I think you're right, Doa. All the ultimates coming down. Self-destruct is over. So is the Primal Rage, and that'll be it.
Hi friends, this is KanKicks, and let's talk about week 4 of Overwatch League, starting with London Spitfire versus the Seoul Dynasty. Seoul Dynasty, having tasted their first loss against New York Excels, just felt out of their element this week, as London Spitfire crushed them, not letting them take a single map point, let alone a map, until the very last match where Seoul finally managed to take 2 map points before losing the last map to London Spitfire.
It will be the clean sweep for London Spitfire, a 4-0 victory over the Seoul Dynasty.
Having a close, nail-biting, neck-to-neck match is one thing. Then losing is another thing. But losing all maps like that is just insulting. Especially if you're Seoul Dynasty, the Titans of Overwatch League. Seoul Dynasty lost 2-0 to London on Numbani, meaning London Spitfire did not let Seoul Dynasty take even a single checkpoint, while they themselves managed to take 2 points. And from there, it was 2-0 on Anubis, then 2-0 on Ilios, before Seoul Dynasty finally managed to take 2 checkpoints on Dorado, but still losing the last and the 4th map to London Spitfire, who managed to take all the 3 points, losing the entire match with an insulting 4-0 to London Spitfire. Well, to be fair, after Seoul Dynasty lost to New York Excels last week, they were probably still shaken up by their first ever defeat. Which is natural, because when your reality distortion field of being this undefeatable champion is just cleared out, anyone's confidence will be broken, and you just start suffering from performance anxiety. It was a sad day for Dynasty fans who had never predicted such a terrifying loss. Now, for people that blame the loss on the fact that the star player of Seoul Dynasty, Raihu Jaehong, was not playing, need to get grips with reality. I feel replacing Gidu for Raihu Jaehong was a smart call, because London Spitfire have 12 of the most talented players from Korea, which includes players from GC Busan, a team that Lunatic High have been pitted against multiple times in Apex tournament. For those who may not be aware of Korean tournaments and its circuits, players of Lunatic High are included in Seoul Dynasty's roster, and GC Busan is now part of London Spitfire. GC Busan were the first ones who were finally able to crack open Lunatic High and defeated them in Apex tournament, a tournament in which Raihu Jaehong was actively playing on Lunatic High's roster. GC Busan by now have figured out Lunatic High inside out and have nailed down Raihu Jaehong's playstyle down to a T. Now, obviously, Seoul Dynasty did predict that they might have to play against the core GC Busan roster, and that's exactly what happened. London Spitfire opened up with the core players from the old GC Busan roster, so here Gidu, replacing Raihu Jaehong, was the element of surprise with his playstyle more suited towards GC Busan's old roster. Not only that, London Spitfire played almost the entire roster, including their terrifying Genji Prophet. There was no way Raihu Jaehong could help Seoul Dynasty win, especially considering the fact that Seoul Dynasty lost almost every single map without even taking up a single objective point on any of those maps. An insufferable loss, something that even a god tier player like Raihu Jaehong would not have been able to turn around for Seoul Dynasty. Then there's this difference between the both teams' playstyle. London Spitfire's tank and DPS work as a clam. They put their targets between them, while Seoul Dynasty's tanks and DPS like to fight together, leaving their supports vulnerable. That's why throughout the matches you mostly see this pattern where first the supports died, followed by the tanks. What's more is that they were dying in pairs. If supports died, both supports died. and the same was the case with tanks. Now, if one sport or a tank dies, then at least you have another one to fill in for him. But what do you do when you lose both your sports or tanks one after the other? London Spitfire is just right now probably the best team in Overwatch League, with the biggest and the most talented roster, with players constantly subbing for each other. I mean, they have played 11 out of their 12 players in this match. It's like London Spitfire's biggest dilemma would not be what to play but how to choose who's going to play it. They can honestly play a blind game with their players, closing their eyes and picking out anyone from London Spitfire, and they will still win the match. A special shout out here to Prophet's Genji, who has been consistent throughout the league. In terms of pure stats, he is right now the best Genji and Tracer in the entire league. But I would not jump to conclusions too soon, as stats do not tell a full story. For me, Shadowburn from Philadelphia Fusion is the best Genji in the entire league. Look at the environment he is playing in. He does not have the luxury of having these god tier co-players that London Spitfire enjoys. Philadelphia Fusion makes big mistakes, leaving poor Shadowburn to clutch out for them. It's not how much damage one is putting out, but when he's putting out and where is he putting out. Shadowburn's positioning, mobility, game sense on Genji is at an entirely different level altogether. Also, he has the best ult management. He holds onto his Dragon Blade much longer than any Genji I've seen and uses it when he knows it's going to have a high impact to clutch a win for his team. He knows when to play defensive, when to go aggressive, and when to clutch. But I digress. Let's talk about another Seoul Dynasty match where Seoul Dynasty barely won. This is one of the best matches of this week and my recommendation as a must watch. Seoul Dynasty up against the Houston Outlaws, the strongest all-Western team roster with star players like Jake. This time we have Rehu Jaehong back with Seoul Dynasty playing for his team. But Houston Outlaws, even without Linkser, who in my books is one of the best hitscan DPS in the league and so severely underrated, still managed to shake up Seoul Dynasty really well, winning the starting match. Seoul Dynasty did make a comeback in the next two matches, managing to win the match but not without a tough fight from Houston Outlaws. Then Houston Outlaws bounced back with a win on the fourth map, forcing Seoul Dynasty to a tiebreaker round, with Seoul Dynasty barely managed to win. Clockwork, who subbed for Linkser, did an amazing job, no doubt about it. But I still feel if Linkser, who was not feeling well, was there, then Houston Outlaws might have won. Especially in the second and the third match where Linkser's Widow could have kept Flutter's Widow in check. But then who knows? Now Houston Outlaws have a strong chance of pushing out Seoul Dynasty for the Stage 1 title playoffs after the end of the next week, where top 3 teams fight for the title spot. London Spitfire and New York Excels are surely going to be in the top 2, leaving Seoul Dynasty in the third spot based on the match wins. But if we disregard the match wins, Houston Outlaws in fact actually have a better map score of 24, and they might just push Seoul Dynasty out, who have a map score of 22, if they manage to tie in with Seoul Dynasty on match wins. Moving on to Boston Uprising. Oh my god, I stated in week 3's videos that these guys are starting to impress me, and this week they blew me out of the water. Oof, these guys just keep getting better every time they come on the match floor. These guys last week greeted London Spitfire with their first ever defeat, a team that this week just rolled over Seoul Dynasty. But these guys proved that it was not a fluke. They continued their 4-0 win streak that they started last week with London Spitfire. These guys are thirsty and they are working hard, and it shows. They started off as a team that no one believed in. They were at the bottom in the preseason and had a slow start in the league's first 2 weeks. So when they showed up on the match floor against LA Gladiators and then against LA Valiants, the hosts, the casters and the audience were unwilling to put their bets on them. All bets were on both the LA teams, with absolutely no chance of winning against the stronger LA team, that is LA Valiant. But as they started playing, all bets were off. They crushed the LA Gladiators, beat them into powder and dusted them off like they were nothing. They did not drop a single map against any of the LA teams. Okay, let's forget about Gladiators, the weaker LA team. Even against LA Valiant, a much stronger team, Boston Uprising were focused, coordinated, and had a game plan. Okay, let's for a second also consider the fact that LA Valiant were missing their star players, Silkthread, their star DPS who has played in every single match, and their star sport Anko, who was down with a shoulder injury. May he get well soon. But even with these two players, the results would have been the same because these were not close matches. Not matches that could have easily swayed in any team's favor. Boston Uprising just outplayed them in every possible way. What's interesting is that Boston Uprising did not start out with established players, so they do not have any preconceived notions or set ways of playing. That's what makes them highly coachable, and props to their coaches for molding these players into what they are today. Dream Casper is shaping up to be a top tier DPS on his Pharah and Genji, and unlike other DPS players in the league who prefer to master either projectile or hitscan DPS, Dream Casper can play both types of DPS at a pristine level of competence. He can probably tie in second with Prophet on his Genji, with Shadowburn from Philadelphia Fusion still being the best Genji by far, and Fleta's Genji from Soul Dynasty coming in at close third. This week on Pharah, Dream Casper looked more terrifying than Fleta. The Fleta, whose Pharah and Widowmaker stats are off the charts. Dream Casper was hitting more air shots, more direct rockets in a short period of time than anybody I've seen in this league so far. And then there's the fact that Note and Gamsu were phenomenal on their tank plays. They are both amazing tank duos and even might surpass NYXL's tank duos Mako Mano. It should be noted, no pun intended, that Note is one of the best D.Va players. That goes unnoticed. Note is one of the best, if not the best D.Va in the league. He might not be an aggressive D.Va as Mako and has a very different playstyle than say Coolmat from Houston Outlaws and Fury from London Spitfire. But as an enabler and a protector, he is amazing at his D.Va. I feel he is one of the best defensive D.Va in the entire league. His defense matrix management is top notch and his D.Va's nuke placement is bang on. And he is always magically there to protect his backlines. He is the lifeblood of his team. He does not take any unnecessary damage as other D.Vas generally do, only taking damage where it is lending some value to his team or fulfilling a win condition, which is an often overlooked trait of a D.Va player. Look here closely. It seems that Dream Casper gets a kill on agilities in his ult, forcing a res out of the Mercy, and then air shots Pharah and Mercy again. And this is why I hate that how tanks and sports point of views are not shown that often. If you watch closely, you would note that Note, showing his amazing mind presence, is instantly focusing his defense matrix on Dream Casper from below to save him from the ulting Pharah, eating up all the rockets, protecting Dream Casper and enabling him to capitalize on it and get big kills. And then we have Striker. Whoa, what a tracer. This guy often gets overlooked, but he's actually playing a very dangerous game. Striker may not have the best stats, but he is probably the best duelist tracer up there with Sebiobi. The way he comes between tanks and sports, cuts the sports off from the tanks and takes them out is just phenomenal. He's like the Medusa of the game, an amazing tactician. He seems to play this hypnotic tune, making the enemy players dance the way he wants them, while he pushes them into a soft corner to easily take them out. Striker's target prioritization is astute and has amazing playmaking abilities that generally go unnoticed. Boston Uprising are shaping up to be the strongest team that have mainly Western players, and they might even surpass Houston Outlaws, another all-Western roster that have started to give neck-to-neck competition to star Korean rosters. Boston Uprising makes almost no mistakes, and their ult management target prioritization is just spot on. They are amazing tacticians and have started to work so well as a team that it's almost scary. I am super excited to see how these guys upset the balance of the league in the coming weeks. Now let's talk about Shanghai Dragons. This team continues to get better, with Undead especially starting to shine, but poor things they were put against London Spitfire, the top team in the league right now, and no amount of improvement could have let them win this one. So in the end, London Spitfire made short work of them. Shanghai Dragons have a lot of ground to cover before they even become competitive. And then we have fan favorites Dallas Fuel versus the New York Excels. Running their old core team envious roster, they showed strong presence. Even managed to take up a map from New York Excel. All throughout they showed good team coordination and played really well. Effect finally gets to play more of his Tracer as he gets room to work with her. This is the most I've seen Effect play his Tracer throughout the match, which is good as that's exactly what Dallas Fuel needed. I like the way Dallas Fuel are now first trying to get better with their core roster and then trying to expand their strengths across the full team roster. Dallas Fuel even managed to hand New York Excel's Pine his first ever loss. Pine played on the last two maps, Oasis and Ilios, and Dallas Fuel managed to beat Pine on Oasis, tarnishing Pine's stellar King of the Hill record. While throughout, New York Excel continues to show why they are the dominant team in Overwatch League, with Sabiobi with his duelist Tracer suffocating the enemy and Mako Mano being amazing tank duos as always. Mako on his Diva was especially a joy to watch. Mako was consistently dishing out insane amount of damage, peeling for his team, disrupting the enemy backlines, pushing for those crazy flanks and making those risky plays that somehow managed to work, proving to us once again as to why he is the best off tank in the entire league. So there you have it, week 4 of Overwatch League where all bets are off. This league is turning out to be very interesting week after week. If something big or exciting happens, something that upsets the balance in any of the coming weeks, we will make sure to cover that. So subscribe to us and press the bell icon for notification so you do not miss any big happenings in Overwatch League. This was KanKicks kicking out.